Bill Potts is a 5-time cancer survivor, believe it or not. 40% of Americans will be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their lives. So it's very likely that you or someone will be diagnosed with cancer because the rates are actually increasing. And currently there are about 18 million cancer survivors, and of course one of those, as we mentioned, is Bill Potts. Bill's one of the world's expert on cancer from a patient perspective, and he also serves as a coach. And if I get my notes out here, we're going to find out more about this. And Bill Potts, welcome to WAMV. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, Bob, thanks for having me. That lead-in song was perfect. The Lord is on my side, and to be a 5-time cancer survivor, it sure helps.
It certainly does. We have somebody who does a program on our station who has actually survived, I think, 5 different kinds of cancer and still trucking right along. But it's very odd. So let's start off here and say, when were you first diagnosed?
Yeah, my cancer journey, it's been a long one. I was first diagnosed in 2002 when I was living in Houston, Texas. By the way, I've got good roots in Virginia. I lived in Richmond, Virginia, and I lived in Alexandria, Virginia too. So love where you are out in Amherst, and love that whole part of Virginia. But anyway, so 2002 was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. Had my thyroid removed. Went through radiation ablation treatment, which is got radiation, the same radiation, iodine-131, that came out of Chernobyl. And Bob, I thought my cancer journey was over, that I was cured, but unfortunately in 2008, now living in the Tampa, Florida area, I was diagnosed with stage 3 lymphoma. And so I got through that surgery, treatment, and unfortunately, my lymphoma came back in 2014. We knocked it out again, and then in 2019, lymphoma came back again. And then in 2020, in July of 2020, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and then my lymphoma came back again. So that's actually 6 times with cancer. We're still working on number 6, but 5 times surviving so far, and that number. It's a big number, and I'm really, it takes my breath away when I even hear you say 5-time cancer survivor, because it's remarkable.
So, were any of your cancers misdiagnosed?
Yes. So early on, I was diagnosed with the thyroid cancer, and then less than a year later, that same group diagnosed me with the thyroid cancer being back, and wanted me to go through another round of radiation treatment, which is pretty hard on the body. And at that point, I kind of woke up to the fact that I needed to own my own journey, and that I needed to get a second opinion, and I needed to go to a high-volume cancer center, which I did at MD Anderson in Houston, and because I'd lived there and I knew that place, and they were amazing. And so I got a second opinion, and lo and behold, Bob, my cancer wasn't back. And I can tell you, if I had gone ahead and got another round of radiation, I'm not sure I'd be here talking to you.
Suppose that's
because the lymphoma, we will never know for sure, but most likely was caused by the radiation I got from the thyroid cancer treatment.
Wow, that's amazing. So you've kind of developed into an expert on cancer, haven't you?
Yeah, I've literally become the world's expert on cancer accidentally, right? And so it was September 17th, 2020. I was having surgery for my 4th lymphoma. Now I'm doing it in Jacksonville, Florida. I couldn't go to Houston because of the pandemic restrictions, and I woke up from surgery in the recovery room, and I was having an emotional breakdown. And I decided that I wasn't up for the fight anymore. That's the name of the book, Up for the Fight. And I had the pastor come in and talk with me, and we spent a long time talking through all the reasons why I should fight. which was to fight for my family, to fight for my friends, to fight for my meaningful work, and to fight to make God proud. And so I got my head back around the fight part, and I decided I was going to give it 100% on the fight. And at the end of this conversation in the recovery room, when I think I'm done with this conversation, the pastor, Tanya, leans in, and she leans in nose to nose. And she says, Bill, I've got one more thing for you. I want you to turn your pain into purpose and write a book to help others. And so I told her I would. Now, remember, I was coming off of a lot of anesthesia, so I had good reasons to forget whether I had told her that or not to do it. But at my house, at the Potts house, a deal's a deal, especially a deal with the pastor's a deal. And so I reached out to a publisher, and the CEO called me and said, Bill, we want to do this book, and we want to do it because we think there's a need for a book like What to Expect When You're Expecting out in the marketplace for cancer patients.
Wow.
It's the book I wish somebody else had written for me. But, Bob, I still continue to learn. Since that book was written, and because of the book, I've learned some good things. And, clearly the book identifies, get a second opinion, go to high-volume cancer centers, own your own journey, manage the business of cancer. But a piece that I had missed, and I was shocked, was I did a lot of this alone. My wife was working. She owned a business. I was working and traveling, 3 young kids. And then as the kids grew up, they were busy. So I was doing a lot of this alone. And interestingly, because of the book, somebody reached out to me from a company called SYNERGY HomeCare. And they said, Bill, we can sit with you in appointments. We can be with you at home. We can help get your meals ready. We can do an audit check so you don't fall down the stairs like I did twice during my last round of chemotherapy.
Oh, wow.
And they're like, we can help you with all those things. And I'm like, I don't even know what home care is, let alone about SYNERGY HomeCare. But I subsequently, telling people going through this journey, don't do it alone, and reach out to companies like SYNERGY for help. And so when I go through this again, because my lymphoma is not curable, at least I have that resource. So I just keep getting more of an expert. It's because I'm hearing from others that have gone through the journey and people like SYNERGY that are coaching me. So, Bob, the book has actually opened up a whole new world for me of insights that can help me in my next battle. But it's also allowed me to really help a lot of other cancer patients. So my day is filled with hearing from cancer patients because I'm readily accessible, through the book. And it's really given my life purpose that I didn't expect. And it's all really because of Pastor Tanya, telling me what God wanted me to do, which is to do this book. And I wrote this book on an accelerated timetable because I wasn't sure I was going to live. And once you make it, and I wanted to make sure I got it done. So it came out about 9 months after I'd written it. And it's been a game changer, not just for cancer patients, but it's been a game changer for their families. My wife and 2 of my 3 kids wrote a chapter to kind of guide the families through it. But it also applies to more than just cancer. It applies to anybody going through a health battle. Own your journey. It's you have to advocate for yourself. It's your battle. It's not the doctors. You can listen to your doctors, but you need to respectfully challenge them. You need to do your homework. You need to find the right place to go. There's so much to manage at any health journey that this book lays it out.
Let's talk for a moment about, I want to get back to SYNERGY HomeCare, but the business of cancer, how do you have one section in your book about the business of cancer buttoned up, making sure you have all your legal and financial documents and so forth. It sounds in talking with you like that was not a problem, or was that a problem?
Yeah, yes, because I started young family, early in my career, and so you have to understand if you're diagnosed with cancer, it's going to be expensive, no matter how good your insurance is, whether it's deductibles or co-pays, new clothes, travel to and from your appointments. there's a financial hit, and I knew that up front. And so immediately we started adjusting our lifestyle and budgeting, for those types of costs. And then also leaned out for support. So I leaned out to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society in 2008 when I was diagnosed with a lymphoma for the first time, and I got some support from them. And then I learned how to work with the healthcare providers to go on payment plans and things like that. So there's no way around some of the expenses that you have with cancer, and so you just have to plan for it and budget for it and prioritize it, because what higher priority can you have than trying to save your own life?
You said Tanya was your in hospital sort of pastor, I guess, and that she encouraged you to get out of your emotional doldrums in the middle of that. But how did you actually, has that come back, or did you really get past that point?
That is a great question. I think it's a roller coaster, Bob. Yeah, I'm generally positive and always have been optimistic, and I am 100% committed to fighting however many times this comes back. So I'm over that part. I was a little bit surprised that I had that breakdown, and a little bit surprised that I wanted to give up. And what I told Tanya at the time is, like, the reason I want to give up is because I know what's coming, and I've lived this great, fulfilling life, and I just don't want to do it again. And by the way, I was wrong. It was worse than I thought, but I had a purpose, right? I had a purpose. Now I had the book, I had the family, I had the friends, and I hadn't thought of the Make God Proud thing. And so, no, I'm over it, but there are days, and I can't predict them, but there are days when I wake up and I'm just a little bit sad. I'm a little bit pensive. I'm a little bit quiet, because I know I got to go through this again. But what I try to do to try to keep those thoughts down and simmering versus a big fire is, every single day I wake up and I take a pill to replace my missing thyroid, so I'm reminded of my journey. And every single day I start the day with some prayer and meditation to get my head in the right place, and then I live my days to try to do everything I can to prevent it from coming back. Exercise, socialization, a diet, all those things, and that's all I can do. If when it comes back, it comes back, but I can look in the mirror and say, look, I did everything I could to delay this thing as much as I could, and to be in a good, healthy position when it does come back, because that also makes a big difference. So I stay in shape so that when it comes back, I can handle this chemotherapy better, and it makes a big difference.
I imagine it does. It wasn't, I'm not even sure it was cancer, but I ended up with something that was misdiagnosed during swine flu, with being multiple sclerosis. But it turned out not to be, but they kept wanting me to take all this multiple sclerosis stuff, and fortunately I didn't, and I went to UVA up there, and they did a thorough diagnosis and diagnosed me with something called POEMS, which I never did like poetry too much when I was growing up. But in any event, it's an acronym that stands for a whole bunch of symptoms, and one of them that can be affected is your lymphatic system, and so it's kind of like having that, because your lymph nodes swell up and some stuff happens. But home care, let's get on back to the home care thing, is kind of important, isn't it? Or it can be. And can you tell us a little more about SYNERGY HomeCare?
Yeah.
You said you never heard of them, and tell me what you're about.
Yeah, SYNERGY HomeCare is one of the leading home care companies in the U.S., and I think they've got at least 9 or 10 locations in Virginia. But this is the non-medical piece. This isn't a nurse that's coming in. This is somebody to help you be your companion, somebody to help you make your meals or to clean, to sit with you at appointments, to take notes at appointments, and particularly on the cancer side, that's really critical to have somebody with you, to sit with you through treatments. And it is a company that I've gotten to know pretty well since they reached out to me to tell me that they could help me. And it's with 100% certainty that Synergy can provide resources to not just cancer patients, but for me, that I'm going to need when I go through this battle again. I've got to take some of the pressure off my wife, right? Yeah. She needs to live her own life. She needs to live her own life too. And she's not working now, so she has more time. But the stress of sitting there with me at these appointments, or the stress of sitting with me, going through chemotherapy, it's a lot. And I need to give her a break too. And so Synergy, again, like the book, I didn't think to do it. And it was Pastor Tanya that thought to do it. I wouldn't have thought to use SYNERGY HomeCare or even the home care industry until they reached out to me. Another blessing of the book.
Wow, well, that's great. Well, let's talk about the book for a second. Where is it available?
Yeah, anywhere books are sold. The easiest way to find it is on Amazon. Get it the next day with Prime, but it's Up for the Fight, How to Advocate for Yourself as You Battle Cancer, from a 5-time survivor. It's Bill C. Potts. There's a Bill Potts jazz musician somewhere in the world, I think in the UK, so I had to become Bill C. Potts. And so it's a book that is with 100% certainty changing and improving the journey of cancer patients. And the thing I didn't expect, Bob, when this book came out, was to hear from cancer patients that said, it saved my life because I got a second opinion after reading your book, and I got the treatment that I needed, and it saved my life. And it's not my book. It's really our book. It's a book for cancer patients and also the families of cancer patients. And I'm just so thankful that Pastor Tanya leaned in and told me to do it.
Yeah, that gave you something to certainly live for, publishing a book, and that's really wonderful. Well, it sounds like God's been with you through the whole thing, and I'm sure He will continue to be with you as you keep on keeping on.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah, I've been alone physically, but I've never been alone. And having God with me on this journey has been amazing, and the idea of fighting hard to make Him proud really shifted the paradigm on my fight, and I wake up every day, fighting.
Well, when I was first diagnosed, before I was diagnosed with POEMS, I was put back in the hospital, and actually it was on my birthday, but I was just going downhill fast, and I said, Lord, if you have anything more for me to do, we've got to get to the bottom of this, so do something to get me to the bottom of it. And it was the next week that I ended up at UVA, and it was just really, really amazing.
Wow.
But he really pulled the strings and put me with the right people, and so forth, and so it goes on, and I'm still doing interviews on the radio and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's a great story.
But we'll be praying for you and wish you the very, very best, and that God continues to bless you. Keep in touch with us. I'd love to talk to you again.
I'd love to be back on your show. I really appreciate your time, Bob.
Well, thank you. Bill Potts is our special guest, and offering a number of tips for people who are going through cancer. And the book is, let me get back to the book here. Bill, tell them again what the book is.
Yeah. The book is called Up for the Fight, and it's by Bill C. Potts, and it's available anywhere books are sold. Easiest way to get it is on Amazon.
Great. Well, Bill Potts, thank you for being with us, and God bless you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. What to expect when expecting a cancer diagnosis, Bill Potts.